Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'll finish that up and clean that up later. I just felt like a nice little trio of annuals over here would look really pretty. I'll actually turn you around and show it to you and then talk about what we're going to talk about in this video. I just love the little trio of containers here, all these bright colors, especially the asters, the celosia. Just thought we needed another one. I had this little container here sitting empty and I just thought it was crying out for some beautiful fall color right here on the patio steps. So I just brought some more annuals home from the garden center and got them planted up real quick. I actually think I could have brought them over a little bit. Maybe we'll stick a little gourd there. But anyway, I like it. So now that it's cooled off and we are basically coming to the end of our planting season, although we do still have plants to get in the ground, hoping to do that within the next couple of days and bring you another video. I have more of a chance to actually walk around the garden. I don't actually want to be outside in the garden when it's really, really hot and humid like it was this summer. I know that sounds odd. I work at a garden center and I have a gardening channel, but having to work outside at the garden center means when I get home from work and it's really hot and really humid, I just want to be inside and relax and calm down a little bit, because that kind of heat and humidity really does exhaust me. So I don't really want to be out in my own garden. But now that it's cooled off, I do have time to walk around and make some mental notes and decide where I want to make changes, what I might want to get rid of or replace. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is plants that I'm not going to plant again, or that if I had to start all over again, I would not plant again. Some of them you might be surprised by. Maybe you have the same experiences. Some of them will be like cultivars of a plant family, not necessarily the entire plant family. And I think there's going to be 3 perennials with maybe a runner-up perennial. I think 3 shrubs I have in mind that I wish I never planted. And 1 shrub that if I could get my hands on it, I would replace one of the shrubs we're going to talk about. So let's walk around the garden and I'm going to show you what it is I wish I hadn't planted and I would not plant again if I had to start all over. So I said one of the plants you might be shocked about, and it's right behind me, and it's coneflowers. So you know, coneflowers are gorgeous. They come in all different colors and some of them are saturated, so gorgeous. My problem with them is the rate at which they spread. So we probably started out, I don't know, I'm gonna just take a stab in the dark, 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, planting some coneflowers. And I think maybe we actually planted 7 or 8 and we literally now have hundreds. I don't want anything on my property that self-seeds that much, at least not down here. We have coneflowers up in our meadow. They can self-seed to their heart's content, but, and you can see right here with this group of coneflowers, some of which I removed earlier this summer, if you remember, and I'll show you some back up in the rain garden as well. You know, we planted maybe 3 or 4 here, and even though I removed 2 or 3 earlier, we probably still have 15. So I'm going to turn you around and show you what I mean. And obviously, I had talked last year about removing all of the coneflowers from here because I just don't like the look of them once they start to go to seed. And they look even worse this year because it's so dry, although they are drought tolerant. But I mean, you can see there's just a bunch of them here, and we only planted, I don't know, I'm going to say 2 or 3 here. And now, as far as I can see, there's probably 5 or 6. And then the same thing over here. I removed 2 earlier. And let's go up to the rain garden and show you just how many have spread up there. Actually, while we're on our way up to the top rain garden, I can show you just an example here. So we transplanted a few up here several years ago. You can see the actual plants, and then you can see these are all babies that have self-seeded. Several here. They're just kind of all over. I don't need that many coneflowers, and while they will be pretty and they will suppress weeds, I am trying to have a little bit of a lower maintenance garden, and I just don't want them spreading all over like this. Even have one there. And then up in our rain garden berm, and I'll show you a clip of, I think it was last year, we planted maybe 15 up here, kind of like in a triangle from the top here, going down the side of the rain garden berm into the rain garden. And they were really, really pretty. But then you can see, these are all new babies. These are all new babies. There's just so many of them now. It no longer has that beautiful triangle that we planted them in. And then we have a bunch we have in our dry creek bed extension at the bottom of our property adjacent to the street. We originally, again, had 3 white ones down there and a couple of pink ones. And now there's so many that you really can't distinguish one plant from another. And I recently pulled one of them out from down there that had aster yellows. I've cut several of the tops off multiple plants down there that also have coneflower rosette disease. And I removed a couple from behind me earlier this summer with coneflower rosette disease. And I don't know if I did a video on that. I shot it and I think I edited it, but I don't know if I uploaded it. I honestly don't remember, but I'll show you some clips of what all that looked like so that you can see what the heads of the coneflowers look like with coneflower rosette disease. So this is from a video I did back in July. I don't remember honestly if I ever posted it, but you can see the seeds heads of these coneflowers are not normal. This is what it looks like when your coneflowers have coneflower rosette disease that are caused by the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 mite, and you really just have to get rid of them. So not only do they spread rampantly, you can't really call them invasive because they're a native plant, but you know, as I age and as we rework this garden, I do want it to be lower maintenance, and I do want it to be a little bit neater and tidier, and that's just a neat and tidy look. Plus the fact that they get aster yellows and coneflower rosette disease, which also spreads to roses and causes rose rosette disease. I won't be planting anymore. Obviously, I don't need to plant anymore. If I want any more coneflowers, I can just go and move some of the ones that we've had spread. But it just causes more maintenance, because if your flowers do get the disease, the coneflower rosette disease, then you have to snip off all the tops. You can just pull them out, but you can just snip off all the tops and hope that mitigates. They're caused by a mite. Hope that mitigates the spread of the mite, but that doesn't, you know, that's not like a 5-minute job when you have hundreds of coneflowers. And then they all have to be cut back in the fall. We cut ours back in the fall. We maybe leave some in the spring. It's just a lot of maintenance. And although they're beautiful, I just don't want all that maintenance. And now, if we want it to look a little bit neater, we have all of the ones that have spread to pull out. So, although I love coneflowers, we will be pulling some out next year. You know, maybe even this year when we're doing our fall cleanup, which we'll probably be doing in a few weeks. I won't be planting them again. Maybe at some point they'll come out with some disease-resistant types, maybe some seedless varieties, although I do know the seeds are great for the birds. I honestly don't ever see, especially not in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't see a lot of goldfinches anymore, which was a primary feeder on our coneflowers in past years. I honestly don't see that many anymore. But, so that is one perennial that I won't be planting anymore, and I certainly won't be buying any more to put in the garden. Another perennial that I have tried over and over again because I absolutely love them. I think they're beautiful, and kudos to you if you have a garden in which they thrive, but I don't, and that's yarrow, and I'm going to show you why. So we're coming down the path along the side of our house here, and you can see yarrow here, which it looks fine. There's one back there that obviously at this time of the year is no longer getting enough sun, so it's not growing back nearly as strongly as this one. There was one in here that's died, I believe. Anyway, I don't see any evidence of it. We tried last year planting several over here. This one looked beautiful in the spring, and it was coming back a little bit a few weeks ago, and now that's died. All I see is that little bit of green, which isn't enough to sustain the plant. So this one was a Sassy Summer Sangria. The one over here that looks really good is a yellow. I'm not sure if it's moonshine yellow or I don't remember the other really strong yellow one. The one that was in here was a Firefly Peach Sky from Proven Winners, as is the one back there. And the reason why I love them is because they come in so many different colors, from yellows to reds to peaches to pomegranates. And I've tried almost all of them. I even actually thought about putting some pink ones up in our new bed. The problem is they look gorgeous in the spring and early summer. Then after their first flush of blooms, they kind of just really dry out and look horrible. So you have to cut them back. And I rarely, if ever, get a second flush of blooms on them. And they're supposed to be really drought tolerant, but honestly, I've never experienced that because they do seem to need a lot more water than the fact that they are labeled as drought tolerant would lead you to believe. So again, too much maintenance for not enough reward. So, you know, if the one little Firefly Peach Sky comes back in the spring, fine, I'll leave it there. The yellow one will stay because it does seem to be a little bit stronger than the other cultivars. I'm not going to replace the Sassy Summer Sangria. I won't be planting any pink ones up in our newest bed. I just think I'm done with Yarrow. Just too much effort for too little reward. The third perennial and final perennial that I'm going to talk about in this video is called Cimicifuga, or 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, as it's now reclassified to. They just need way more water than we get rain anymore. And although they have beautiful blooms and they are extremely fragrant, and we've planted them here in a spot that used to be quite wet, but it is no longer wet, so they just end up looking dry and frizzled. I think I can come up with something better to replace them with. We'll replant them somewhere. Maybe in the summer here they just get too much sun, especially now that the maples are gone behind me. But even when the maples were here, they always looked like this. So let me turn you around and show you. So you can see this just dry, frizzled perennial. It did bloom. This one is called Hillside Black Beauty, and it gets beautiful dark foliage and white flowers that again smell really fragrant. There are 3 of them here. There's that one, there's that one, and there's one here that always stays pretty small. And they can spread, because if I come here through the hydrangea hedge, that's one that's self-seeded right there. And even though it hasn't gotten any additional water, it's very, very shaded from our Quickfire hydrangea standard. So I think the key to them is full shade, even though they're listed as, you know, part shade, so they can take some sun. I just think here, again, closer to the house, I don't want something that's always going to look frizzled like that. We have several more planted up here. We have 3 pink spike. You can see that they did bloom, and then we have, these are the 3 pink spike. Doing a little bit better because we have been up here watering this summer, but still looking a little crispy. And then these 2 over here are Chocoholic, which did not do very well this season. So I'm not sure what I'll replace them with. I don't know that I'll replace the ones up here, since we don't really see these that often. You know, maybe we just continue to provide these with additional water. Maybe we'll move the other ones up here farther back in this bed so that they're a little bit more shaded. I think the ones down below I'm actually going to replace with Fizzy Mizzy 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, because funnily enough, even though 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 are very wet site tolerant, we have them in some really dry places on our property. We really don't provide them with any additional moisture, and they fare really, really well, considering that they are a wet site tolerant plant. I think they're a lot more drought tolerant than a lot of drought tolerant plants like the Yarrow. So I think that will look really pretty down there. So those are the 3 perennials that I would not plant again. Let's talk about some shrubs now. So the first group of shrubs, and this includes all of this family, that I would not plant again, are junipers. I have just not had luck with junipers. I think it's our climate. They're sold as drought tolerant. I have not found that to be the case, and they get covered in every disease possible. I'm on my patio right now. I'll turn you around and show you the 2 blue arrow junipers we planted here because we needed, well, we wanted a little bit of a screen, but also something that was narrow. They were both covered in rust earlier this year, and then I think they got another type of fungal disease, and we treated it. I continued to cut branches out in the hope of staving off these trees dying and having to be replaced. I think I might just replace them because, again, I'm looking for low maintenance, and if I have to do this every year, that's not very low maintenance. Now, I also think part of it is the planting location. Part of it, I think, is the high heat and humidity we've had over the last couple of years, but you can see all the orange in there and the brown. Sorry about the plane overhead. Again, we have treated them. I thought we successfully treated the rust, and then they immediately started to brown, which I researched, and I will put it up on the screen what the disease was. I also treated that and continued to cut out. Now, I don't know. This to me looks like new growth. This one is not nearly as bad as the one right outside our patio doors, but it does have a lot of brown in it. I think the planting location here is just very alkaline because of the concrete from our patio, and maybe that has something to do with it. Here's the other one, and you can see it's just much worse. I've had to cut a lot out in the middle here, and the particular disease that I'm talking about, the guidance is to cut out every little single bit of brown. Well, that's kind of impossible on a juniper. And it continues to show more and more drying out and browning. But then it does have some new growth. I just don't know if this is going to survive the winter. So again, you can see that should probably be cut out. So, not sure when we'll get rid of these. But I just feel like if our climate's going to continue to be much more hot and humid than it has been on average, then these trees are just not going to do well, and I'd rather just replace them. We'll see what happens. We'll see what it looks like in the spring, and I'll obviously keep you posted. So this is the backside of our rain garden, and these are the 2 pinpoint blue and gold fall cypresses. So I just wanted to show you those real quick. If I could get my hands on these again, I would definitely plant these because they are so low maintenance. They've probably tripled in size too in 3 years, which is a little bit faster growing than I expected. But they're absolutely beautiful and very, very low maintenance. So the first shrub that I would not plant again is the sugar shack button bush. You can see now these plants grow in rivers, so they need a lot of water. And they haven't gotten it this year. We have provided a little bit of extra water, but even last year, we have 3 of them in here. This one just started dying off, and we cut it back hard, and then it came back with this funky long branch this year. They do, as most proven winter varieties of plants, get bigger than the tag says. They do have beautiful glossy foliage. You can see that. I think we all know they have these really cool alien looking seed heads, but I mean, they just look really wilted all the time because we're not getting any precipitation. But I'll show you ones we have planted in our upper rain garden that don't get treated any differently, and they're actually doing quite well. And as a runner-up of plants that I will not plant again, it has to be bee balm. They're always covered in powdery mildew, and they actually need a lot of water as well. A lot more obviously than this native blue mist flower needs. That's a native perennial 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. But you can see this is the Jacob Klein bee balm. It just always looks powdery mildew. I cut it back, and because we're not getting the rain we used to, it doesn't do anything, so I'm just left with these seed heads. I thought I would replace the Jacob Klein bee balm with some more shamrock ilexes, so that on this side we have some evergreens for winter interest. As I'm walking up the path here to show you another shrub, let's take a look at this gorgeous Oh So Easy Hot Paprika rose blooming at the same time as the Sunshine 2 Bluebeard. That's why I planted the rose here, because I love the orange and the purple together. So pretty. So right here we are looking at one of the magical moonlight button bushes, and although it's starting to go yellow, it's not nearly as wilted as the sugar shack. So even though the magical moonlight gets a lot bigger, if I needed for some reason to plant a button bush again, it would be magical moonlight and not the sugar shack for that reason. So I think that's it for all of the perennials and the shrubs that I would not plant again if I had to start all over. Let me know in the comments if there are any perennials or trees or shrubs that you would not plant again. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd also like to know if you have the same issues with your junipers and coneflowers and yarrow as I do. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.